Welcome to the latest episode of 5 on the Floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Thanks for joining us on your favorite podcast app. On Apple, we recommend Apple Podcasts. On Android, Spotify, or the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. Also, check out Off the Floor this entire month, the entire month of August. We're taking suggestions directly from Off the Floor. We'll credit you when we post the episode because typically I forget who it is that suggested it at the time while we're doing the episode, but we promise we'll do it later. Link is right here in the description, $2.99 per month. Communicate with Heat fans all day long, all night long, and with us as well. Also, check out the great sponsors of the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Includes Better Edge. Use the code 5RSN. That's code 5RSN. Get $20 to play. This is a social betting marketplace. What makes it different from the book that you hear about so much in the state of Florida? Well, first, there's no VIG. You're not just giving money to the house for nothing. The other thing is you can find the line that you want in their marketplace. Legal in the state of Florida and 44 other states. Check it out at betteredge.com. That's betteredge.com. When you sign up, use the code 5. That's the number 5. RSN, you get $20 to play right away. And now, today's episode.
Down the Biscayne. Yikes. 5 on the floor. Ride for my dogs. Where here's the thing. You can check the score. Hustle hard, couple scars, wearing bubble frogs. Just like Butler said, you in trouble, y'all. Kept the floor playing. Got it all band. Y'all seen the block. Stop with one hand. And Pat, we trust, it's power, have the guts. We're here to bring the heat. Y'all can hang it up.
Welcome to 5 on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, and Alex Toledo, plus others from the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
Welcome back to 5 on the Floor. Here's today's floor plan. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick and at 5 Reasons Sports. I got Greg Sylvander. You can follow me at Greg Sylvander. Check out recent episodes I've done with the other hosts of 5 on the Floor. Brady and I went through the possible 9-man rotations for the Heat this year. That's up on the feed as well. Also, Tyler Herro. Is it a fair contract or not? Because we hear a lot of Heat fans talk about it. But then when Alex and I actually broke it down, maybe it's not what you think. So check it out. We do appreciate our Heat fans that can be open-minded about things, at least until we go through some of the nuance. You still disagree with us? Well, then you still disagree with us. That's fine. Okay, or with some of us, because we don't always agree on everything. But we'll see if we agree on this. Greg and I are going to go through one of the topics that we got through off the floor, which is who leads the Heat in scoring this year. And it's an interesting question because I really think there are 5 options on the team. And let's just go through it from the past 2 years, okay, 2 or 3 years. So last season, the leading scorers on the Miami Heat were Jimmy Butler at 20.8 points, and we're going per game, by the way, and Tyler Herro at 20.8 points. Now, unfortunately, the two of them combined to play only 102 games. Jimmy played 60 and Tyler played 42. Bam Adebayo averaged 19.3, and Terry Rozier, since he came over from Charlotte, averaged 16.4, which was below what he averaged in Charlotte. Now I'm going to go back. Now there's a 5th guy here we're probably going to talk about because that's how this topic came up, is that somebody suggested someone else on off the floor. You guys can probably figure out what that is. But let me go back to the year before. Leading scorer on the team, Jimmy Butler, 22.9. Bam Adebayo, 20.4. Tyler Herro, 20.1. That was the year nobody else was above 11.5. That was Max Strus. And the year before, go through this one now. The year before was, and I nearly nailed this one, actually. So close. I needed a free throw here or there. The year before, Jimmy Butler, 21.4. Tyler Herro at 20.7. Bam Adebayo at 19.1. So looking at that, I'll start here. Will there be a 24-point scorer on this team this year?
24 points per game?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so. I think that's a big ask. I think that they distribute shot attempts in a way that's at least at the top of the roster in a way that it's not going to be 24. That will mean that something is going really right for somebody, and it likely will also lead to some newfound success for the team too. Mm-hmm. So those would be some of the key implications, but I don't see it. I still I agree that there's many options because Terry Rozier, if you look at just his time in Miami, field goal attempts, he's shot more field goals than Bam, I think, and Jimmy. It was just Tyler that was ahead of him, if I remember correctly. So there's what this boils down to for me is that even though there's many options and there's a guy that, you kind of alluded to in Jaime Jaquez that maybe makes that leap. For me, the field goal attempts tell the story, and I think it's still going to be Tyler Herro that leads the team in scoring, and I just hope that it's in a lot more games than it was last year.
Well, we're going to qualify this because some of it may depend on whether he starts or not, also whether Terry starts or not. Let me go through the field goal attempts from last year since you mentioned them. Tyler was at 17.5. Rozier, after joining Miami, was at 14.5. Now, remember, they didn't play a ton together because of the injuries at various times. Bam at 14.3. Jimmy Butler, I bet most Heat fans wouldn't know this off the top of their head, was fourth on the team in field goal attempts, 13.2, which sometimes came off as sort of lack of caring in some of those games. But there's another part to this because you mentioned field goal attempts. But also points are influenced not just by efficiency, but also by the number of free throws and also by the number of three-point attempts, right? So in terms of three-point attempts, last year, Tyler 7.9 of his 17.5 or 3. Rozier 5.7 of his 14.5. Bam 0.6 of his 14.3. I have a feeling that may actually finally go up. And Jimmy, we've talked about the three-point shooting with him and how maybe he should hike it, 2.4 out of 13.2. But then the free throw attempts tell a story here. Because we talk about leading scorers, again, if you're going to be a surefire leading scorer, you need to get to the line. Herro and Rozier do not. Butler, 7.7 attempts. Bam, 5.5. Tyler, 2.6. Terry, 2.2. So I don't think predicting Tyler as a leading scorer on this team is crazy, by the way. I don't think it's going to be him. But I don't think it's crazy. And because as long as he's here, the value that you get out of Tyler Herro is scoring the ball. Okay? And especially, we've talked about him playing off the ball a little bit more, but especially if he does more of the catch and shoot three thing, which he is very good at, there will be a hike in his points, I think, because if he shoots 38 to 40% on those three-pointers, numbers will go up. Higher percentage of three-pointers, I expect his numbers to go up because I don't think, even though we've discussed it, I really don't think the free throws are going to go up. I don't. I think it's wishful thinking. We've seen this pattern now for 4 years. I don't even know that it's I don't even know that it's a goal at this point, honestly. Like I feel like it would help the Heat, but it just doesn't seem like he's ever going to get the benefit of the doubt from the officials. And it's not his game. He's good in the mid-range. He's good from three. I feel like that's where it's at. I think Bam's going to lead the team in scoring.
Wow. There's a couple things with this. You can lean into the Bam evolution here and also the Jimmy playing for a contract situation. So you're not wrong to kind of think about this with an open mind because there's guys that have incentive. Bam looks like he's evolving as a player. And if you add some volume, any level of volume shooting from outside, who knows how that impacts other parts of his offensive game and what that can open up for him, maybe in terms of free throw attempts, etc. So it is an interesting part of this. And then Jimmy is playing to convince Miami or someone else to give him a max contract at his age. So who knows if you get a little bit of nuclear Jimmy here or there, if that impacts things. So there definitely is a case to be made for several guys. And that, doesn't even take into account Terry Rozier, who obviously showed in Charlotte he can be a volume scorer. I don't know that that's going to be his role here, but he obviously has the ability. But the fact that you go Bam and that Jimmy's playing for a contract it makes it a conversation.
All right, let me throw some of this at you on specific things that you mentioned. All right, so let's just do this sort of rapid fire. Do you think it makes a big difference in Jimmy's next contract for him to average over 20?
Not really. Not as long as he shows up in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think as long as he's doing the other things. Like I feel like as long as I think his efficiency goes up, which it dipped a little bit last year, not from three. From three, it was the best he's had in Miami by far. But in the other areas, we talked about him against length. Some of the numbers around the rim were not real good, fell off, particularly against the top 10 defenses in the league. I feel like if those numbers come back up and he defends at a high level, leads at a high level in his way, that there will still be teams that are, because of the pedigree, like you said, will be interested in paying him. I don't think he needs to average 20. Okay. Second question. How will the Heat be best if who's leading them in scoring?
That's a great question. For me, it's Bam. I feel like
Me
that
too.
would be the scenario that would have the highest trajectory at this point. If he were to make that leap where he is that kind of consistent scorer, still doing the things he does defensively, that's probably the best recipe. But I just don't know that. I mean, it's just a lot to ask of that guy.
It is, and we've talked a lot about how his numbers offensively decline month to month every season. They literally did every single month last season, every month. Okay, and the year before that, remember, he tanked after the All-Star break. He got it back a little bit in the playoffs, and he kind of fell in the middle of where he was prior to the All-Star break or during. And we talked about that being the burden on him. But let's just say he's playing with Jovic more often. That Ware is worked into the rotation. He's not playing next to a 6'5" guy all the time. Again, I don't care if he's the 4 or the 5. Just get someone 6'9" or taller next to him. Okay? Maybe he will have the juice for a little bit more offense. Here's the other thing I think is going to help him, though. This stage, we've talked about it a lot that he's on in the Olympics. I think he's going to get more respect from the officials next year. They're human.
Huge.
Right? They play into this stuff. So let's say it's not just the three-point shooting, but let's say that he goes from where was he at last year? I'm sorry, 7.7 free throw attempts. Let's say 5.5, and he was a 76% shooter. He's weird about the free throw shooting too. He'll go through like a month where he looks great, and then another month where he's missing 1 out of 2 every single time. But let's say he goes from 5.5 to closer where Jimmy is, to 7.77. Well, Jimmy was 7.7 last year. I mean, that's an extra point and a half, right? Now
a three-pointer made,
and a three-pointer.
Yeah.
2.5 points, right? I mean, he doesn't even really have to increase the overall volume that much because last year he was at 14.3 attempts. Okay. They've talked about 15 being the magic number. He was at 15 the year before. Now they have Rozier, but let's just get it to 15. Again, add a couple of points, 1.5 at the line, a point from 3, an extra 0.7 attempts. And that number goes from then he goes from 19.3 to 21. I think that's enough to lead this team in scoring. I don't think the Tyler thing is crazy at all. I don't. Okay. And I think we've gone the other direction now. And that's why I did the podcast about his contract, because he's the 54th highest paid player in the league next year. It's about where he is in the league. Okay. We went through all of it, Alex and I. And there's nobody like egregious below him that were like, okay, he shouldn't be making that kind of money. All right. So I know Heat fans are going to scorch me for this. The contract is not great, but it's fair. That's where I'm at with it. All right. And I think we've swung too far the other direction. We're not realizing the guy is a good scorer when he's healthy. Okay. And when there's a fit. Do you think his scoring, let's go to another quick question here. Do you think Tyler's scoring will go up or down if he's coming off the bench?
That's interesting. I think it will go down most likely. But I think that the team could be more effective. I mean, you could talk me into that for sure. I've just seen it in print before, whereas this other part of starting him and Terry together, if that's where the way you go, or if it's him and Duncan, which I know that they've done before. I don't know. I kind of, you see Tyler putting things out there about 26 points per game. It just makes me feel like Tyler's going to get enough shots up either way. But I do think his overall averages could go down a bit if he comes off the bench, because it could signal kind of what you're leaning into about Bam, or that Jimmy's having a really big year. Otherwise, I don't know that he's accepting that role. I just don't know. I don't know that I'm buying it yet.
I don't think he's going to be given that role, and I don't think he wants that role. But I actually think his numbers off the bench, his points per game, will be the same or better if he comes off the bench. He'll be featured.
It would be
more.
a nominal difference, I think.
Well, I mean, look at the year he won 6th Man of the Year. Like, he'll be featured more. Like, if he comes off the bench and he's playing, let's say he's coming off the bench with, we got to talk about Hawkes here, but let's say he's coming off the bench with Jaime and maybe Highsmith or Kevin. Okay. I can absolutely see a situation if he's got the ball in his hands all the time. Now, with the starting group, he's not going to. Okay, he's just not going to. It's just not. They have to figure all that out with him. It's him and Rozier. So that's another way to look at it. All right. After the break, we're going to talk about Rozier, and I want to flip something because I want to talk about Jaquez because this is the wild card of this situation. We've had a couple on Discord who've made this suggestion. That would be crazy. Do you want to mention a great sponsor, the 5 Reasons Sports Network? I don't even know what we're doing today. Oh, is it water cleanup? Yeah, water cleanup. Did I say the one I said? Water cleanup of South Florida, based in Boca Raton, service the entire Tri-County area. Almost 100, more than 100 now, 5-star reviews on Google. They can take you through the entire process. If you notice a leak in your business, your home, reach out to Michael Robert and his team right away. Make sure you mention 5 Reasons. They take good care of everybody, but they'll take special good care of you then. WCUFL.com. If there are big problems after the fact, they'll work with the insurance company. They'll go through everything to try to get it cleaned up for you as quickly as possible. And if they can't do the job, they will tell you. That makes them different from a lot of these other contractors. Your one-stop water and mold cleanup shop, Water Cleanup of Florida. If you've got the schmutz,
they got the guts.
So this was a gutsy pick. What would have to happen for Jaime Jaquez to lead the team in scoring?
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because it either means that Jaime made such a leap that like it just completely changes the complexion of this season, or it means that some other guys have had some pretty drastic dips in production that he ends up leading the pack. So I don't know. I think that this is one the hope trafficker in me wants to say he's going to be nearing something like 17 points per game or so. Like, I feel like that's a good number to strive for. Leading the team in scoring, that's a big leap from where he was last year. Do you disagree?
I don't disagree, but I think there's one way it could happen. If Jimmy misses 30-plus games. Because Jaime would be starting at his spot.
That's true.
And I actually think you can make an argument that you'd get more consistent scoring from Jaquez than you would from Butler during the regular season. Because I don't think it's Jimmy's priority. I just don't. And I'm not, that's not to disparage Jimmy. Jimmy can get 30 still if that's what he wants to do. But I just feel like Jaime has developed, and look, he's going to have to develop counters to the counters. We saw that last year. They started to take away that spin into the lane. We identified that immediately. Other teams identified it. He took it away. He kind of started spin cycling to nowhere. And he's talked about being more of a 3-point shooter this year, a knockdown shooter and a lockdown defender. But those are role player things. Now, what we saw in Summer League, and especially Summer League is one thing because you expect guys to blow up in their second year of Summer League, and he looked like the best player out there in Vegas.
Yep.
But what we saw for the U.S. select team, and I keep saying that the coaches there were telling the media guys, okay, some of my friends in national media, that Cooper Flagg and Jaime Jaquez were the 2 best players on that team. Now, Brandon Miller was on that team. There were a lot of high-end guys on that team. If you're going to see that kind of progression and Jimmy misses time, there will be games where Jaime gets 23 to 25 because he's taking Jimmy's reps. If Jimmy plays closer to what the Heat want him to play in, and what he probably should try to play in a contract year, like say 70 games, I think it'll be difficult because I don't see. I believe Herro will get the volume scoring if he comes off the bench. They'll feature Jaquez, but not the same way they'll feature Tyler coming off the bench, because Tyler's done it, right? He's 6th man of the year. He's the best 6th man in the league. The year he was doing it.
They would love for him to just accept that role, I bet.
Well, if he accepted that role, we've talked about the starting lineup. I mean, could you make the case to put Jaime in the starting lineup with Jimmy, Jovic, Rozier, and Bam?
I mean, that's it. That's one way to look at it for sure, in terms of a way to get a young player more size in the starting lineup, maybe some better matchups, particularly with the backcourt and that kind of stuff. So that's the path. But any
then you would be
season we're
bringing Herro
banking
and
on
Duncan off
Jimmy
the
not.
bench, though.
What's that?
Then you'd be bringing Herro and Duncan off the bench, which I know people are going to call us on that.
And I think it's a valid call out. I don't see it happening.
Yeah.
I still maintain that I think Tyler Herro starts at the end of the day. If he's still on the team, which I think he will be, I expect him to be on the team, even if some fans, want a trade so badly. I think that it gets a little ridiculous what some of the returns that people talk about for Tyler are now. I still think that he's gonna get his volume, and it's gonna happen in the starting lineup. I don't think he comes off the bench. You think that I think it's more likely that Terry would come off the bench in this scenario.
I do. I just don't know who the other backcourt guy would be. If it's Herro and who, it's not going to be Josh. We talked about that maybe in camp last year. It's not going to be Josh. So Jaime, Duncan, can they really start Herro and Duncan? I know that the metrics on it have been a little better over time, but you're going to start Herro, Duncan, and Jovic. I mean, you're giving Bam and Jimmy a lot to clean up.
Yeah.
Even if Jovic improved as a defender last year, I don't know. It feels unlikely to me. Although Pat threw it out there, like he kind of said that in his end of year presser, he kind of said, well, Terry, possibly a 6-man. I just don't feel like they got Terry to be a backup, and I do feel like they're going to force feed the Herro Rozier thing in training camp. I think we're gonna, and then I think we may see a change there at a certain point, because I really don't think that's more than a 15-minute a game lineup, but we'll see. All right, so let's do it before we close, and we thank our sponsors. Check out all the episodes. Suggest more episodes. Let's put ourselves on the record here. First week of August, okay? So we got some time before the team's in the Bahamas. Give me your top 5 in scoring, in order.
Ooh, let's go Tyler Herro, Bam. You talked me into Bam in this episode. Jimmy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go with the sneaky pick of Jaime and then Terry.
I'm going to flip the order of the first 2. I'll go Bam, Tyler. I think we agree on Jimmy third. I'm torn on whether it's a good thing if Jimmy leads them in scoring during the regular season. Part of me says, well, it means he's engaged, right? As long as it comes with at least 65, 70 games, like I said. And part of me thinks if he's having to do that, it's not the best thing for the team right now or long term. So I'm torn on it, but I'll put Jimmy third. Torn on Terry and Hawkins. I think Terry's going to get the volume.
That's
so I'll say Terry fourth, but like I'm saying, if Jimmy misses 30 plus games, I'm moving Jaime way up that list because they're going to feature him if Jimmy's out. They're absolutely going to feature him if Jimmy's out. The rest of the team, is there any chance anybody else on the team averages double digits?
I think if you ask Josh Christopher, he'd tell you he could.
In the fourth quarter alone. Is there any chance that Jovic averages double digits?
He could get there. That's a chance. I think that he's a guy who could get around 10 a game.
I think so too. I think he could actually get you 12 and 7. I think if you got 11, 6 to 7, and 3.5 to 4 in terms of points, rebounds, and assists from Jovic this year, I think
highly successful year.
Absolutely. And again, continued improvement on defense, more on-ball reps, that kind of stuff, and continuing to shoot well off the ball from 3, because again, we haven't had to see a lot of those on-the-ball reps. I don't really think there's anybody else on the roster this year. The most optimistic projections, I don't see it for this season. Right. I don't see it either. And we've talked about some of the role guys. I just don't see it there either. I know Haywood wants to expand his game. I think he can expand his game in spurts, but they're not going to feature him. It's not like Kel'el, where we talked about, okay, last year there was a possibility of Kel'el popping offensively. It didn't really happen because of some of the injuries he had in training camp going forward. All right, so you and I are on the record here. Jimmy third in scoring. Bam and Tyler in some order. I do think it's better for the team if it's Bam. It just means more efficiency and more development on his part. Yeah, but I guess everybody's downplaying Tyler, and you and I both have him in the top 2 in scoring on the team this season. So that's where it is. All right. Again, provided he's with Miami. Thanks to Greg. Thanks to Water Cleanup. Thanks to Better Edge. More episodes coming up this week.
Thank you for listening to the 5 on the Floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. After all, someone needs to listen to my dad.